majority of our body is all gut bacteria, for context. We have more bacterial cells than we even have human cells.
Whoa, that's crazy to think about. So there's more stuff living in us than we know.
Exactly, exactly.
Welcome back to the show, guys. Digital Social Hour. Got a fabulous guest for you guys today, Jimerson. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So what you been working on lately?
What am I working on? Pretty much following everything that I recommend. Trying to get rid of stress, trying to eat better, trying to get better light, everything, anti-aging.
Yeah, you recommend some fascinating stuff that I haven't seen anywhere.
Awesome.
Especially with the Eyesight stuff.
Yep.
You, is it true you have a $20 flashlight that you shine in your eyes every morning?
I do. I have a 670 nanometer flashlight. So that's a red spectrum of sunlight or of light. And so that is considered photobiomodulation. So photobiomodulation is massively studied. And photobiomodulation is basically how light affects our cells, how it actually heals up all of our cells. So this study came out a couple of years ago. They took 670 nanometer flashlights and they showed it into the eyes of people. And as you got older, what they saw is better improvements in not only eyesight, but color differentiation as well. It skyrocketed.
Wow.
And one of the things that happens is as we get older, our mitochondria, which is the nuclear power plant of the cell, it diminishes. And so that's why this really improves this, is because photobiomodulation revs that up.
So have you measured your eyesight before you started and after?
I did. I mean, I already had really good eyesight. I got LASIK done when I was 21 years old. Yeah. And due to my poor lifestyle in chiropractic school, I mean, I was unbelievably unhealthy. And this is going to be hysterical, but I used to smoke a pack of cigarettes every day. I drank tons of alcohol. I ate fast food. And so within a couple of years, like, I noticed my eyesight was actually starting to fail. And, so I'd always planned to say to myself, someday I'll get LASIK done again. I'll improve that. Yeah. And so all of the photobiomodulation reversed all of that. So I see just as good as I did after the LASIK.
Wow. So you could get LASIK twice?
I think so.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, my mom got it, but she's like almost 60 now, and she said it sort of went away at this point.
And I think some of that has to do with inflammation in our body. I think that's why that can change that.
Really? So inflammation can affect eyesight?
Inflammation can absolutely affect eyesight.
Wow, you never hear about that. So what exactly, so your eyes are actually getting inflamed a little bit, basically?
Your entire body can get inflamed, but again, it kind of comes down to that whole the mitochondria, which is the nuclear power plant of the cell. It basically provides the energy. It's like the battery for your cells. Yeah. And so as we get older, our mitochondria decrease in efficiency. So just it's not going to function as well. And so due to our lifestyle, that can accelerate that.
Interesting. And on the diet side, what approach are you taking? Because it seems like every year there's a new superfood, a new trend, a new fad. Are you staying consistent with what you're doing? Or are you changing it up?
I'm always experimenting, but really what I found that it comes down to is there always has to be context when you're eating stuff. I'm not a huge fan of necessarily cutting out food groups, but for instance, like genetically not everybody can process dairy, but you can grow gut bacteria in your gut that can actually process the dairy for you.
So how would you go about doing that? Say you're lactose intolerant, what would you take to have that in your gut?
I like to try to grow this bacteria in my gut, and I'm absolutely in love with this stuff. It's called Akkermansia. So it's a specific type of gut bacteria that helps kind of seal up the gut wall. And it plays well with this other bacteria called bifido. And so once you can regrow those gut bacteria in your gut, you can slowly start taking in smaller amounts of dairy and be able to handle it. And
wow.
So there are studies where they have gotten animals to be able to process dairy again.
That's exciting for people out there that can't eat ice cream or have a cheese, grilled cheese.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of work and effort, but everything always comes down to context.
Yeah. So how long would you have to take it to eat some? Would you have to take it for like a year?
I'd say about 20, 30 days. Okay. And it's not that you're actually taking like a probiotic. You have to that particular that particular bacteria doesn't do well as a probiotic. So you have
Yeah.
to basically feed it what it likes to eat.
Where do you stand on probiotics? I've seen mixed things about it. I mean, I drink kombucha, I eat yogurt, but like, is that something you should be taking daily?
Kombucha and yogurt is a little bit different in that it has much, much higher levels of good bacteria than you would get in a pill per se. But I'm not a huge fan of probiotics. And it's just because, I could take a probiotic and it can make me feel absolutely amazing. You could take the exact same probiotic and you'd say, oh my God, dude, this makes me feel like I've got the worst brain fog in the world. And on top of it, if like this whole inside of this room here is like the inside of your gut wall, when you take a probiotic, it would be, if we were trying to paint this inside of this room, it would be like taking a paintbrush and kind of dip it into the paint, and you're kind of like spattering it around the walls. It's kind of doing the job, but not really. As opposed to food, if you actually feed your gut bacteria good food, it's like covering the whole inside of your gut wall. So it's a big difference.
Interesting. So you talked about inflammation earlier. Your whole philosophy is to just try to avoid or limit it, right? Through proper diet and supplements.
It's not just diet and supplements. I mean, it has to be the whole shebang. You have to limit stress. You have to have good sunlight. You have to sleep well. You have to breathe well. You have to drink, enough water.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different factors. And if you're missing one of those things, limit your toxin exposure. So if you're limiting any of those things, you're going to crash. So you could have somebody having the best diet and the best diet in the world, and they exercise. But let's say they're under chronic amounts of stress. It's never going to go down.
Yeah.
Or like, you hear about somebody, like, oh man, like I know this one guy and he was an avid runner and, somehow he ended, and he always stayed away, but he never smoked and he never did any of that stuff, but he ended up with lung cancer. Well, the guy ran outside and, in traffic and inhaled, smog and carbon monoxide from, gas exhaust and stuff. So everything kind of comes together. You can't have one without the other.
Wow. So you mentioned toxic exposure. Is that like, I've been seeing all this stuff on social media, like household cleaning products, laundry detergents, even shampoo and conditioner. Are you talking about all that?
All of it. We pretty much live in a toxic world. It's kind of scary. We're exposed to, I've seen studies saying that we're exposed to something like 10,000 different chemicals by the time 10 a.m. hits. Yeah.
How?
Anything from, imagine our furniture, off gases, PFAS, which is forever chemicals, which can mess with your endocrine system, to your tap water. Tap water, they just did a study and they found that I want to say it was 50, 52, 55% of all of the tap water in the entire United States is loaded in PFAS, which is the forever chemicals. Stuff messes with your hormones. It causes inflammation. It causes cancers.
Whoa.
Detergents. I mean, this stuff is everywhere. You're outside. You're inhaling. Again, carbon monoxide. Yeah,
that's scary. So if you want to just take a shower, like, what do you do?
And it just depends, like on how geeky you want to get. But you can get a whole house, filter, like a reverse osmosis.
Is that what you have?
Yeah.
The Kangen machine or whatever?
I don't do the Kangen. I've got something, I think it's like Radiant Life.
Okay. And that hooks up to your showers in your bath too, like, and all your sinks?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. I've got a separate one for the sink.
Wow. Yeah, that might be worth it, because if you're bathing in that, it's probably not the best, because your body just soaks up everything, right?
Your body absolutely soaks it all up.
Man, that's scary.
Yeah.
And with the stress stuff, something that's like really concerning, because a lot of people are stressed, obviously, but I never knew it could have that much of an impact on your health.
Yep. And it's different, and stress comes in all different forms. It's not just always that emotional stress. You can have, bad light, that's a stress, or, not sleeping, that's a stress. There's a lot of different things that can be considered a stress.
What foods have you seen cause inflammation and stress for people? Like, fried foods, right? Obviously, but
fried foods, it definitely comes down to ultra processed foods. This stuff, absolutely destroys our gut bacteria. It messes with our liver. So whenever I put anything in my mouth, my big thing is, I try to think, hey, is this feeding my gut bacteria? The majority of our body is all gut bacteria, for context. We have more bacterial cells than we even have human cells.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. So there's more stuff living in us than we know.
Exactly. Exactly.
So in terms of sleep, how have you going about that? I saw Brian Johnson just achieve like a 100 score on Whoop for 4 months straight with his sleep.
You really, really have to work at it. I mean, blood sugar, you really have to be on top of all of your blood sugar levels, so if you're eating, let's say, processed foods and you're getting these insulin spikes and these insulin crashes, what's going to happen is you're going to get an insulin crash in the middle of the night. Your body ends up spiking up your adrenaline, and adrenaline, you end up waking up in the middle of the night all revved up. You're trying to do, laundry lists in your brain.
That's definitely happened to me before. So you're saying basically not to eat before you sleep.
I'm saying you have to eat quality foods throughout the day, or
Right.
if you're constantly stressed, again, that's going to take your stress hormones and they're going to start being all over the place. You're going to, again, that's going to kind of wake you up. Or if you're not getting appropriate light all throughout the day, so you need sunlight in your eyes very first thing in the morning to be able to start creating melatonin. You need to get sunlight a little bit all throughout the day. You can't have too much artificial light at night, or you start shutting down your production of melatonin. From a sunlight perspective, movement, if you're not moving enough, throughout the day, when we move, when we walk, when we stay busy and stuff like that, it helps kind of pump our lymphatic system, so there's all of these kind of key players. And so things won't necessarily work without everything.
Right. So how much sunlight are you trying to get per day, and how many steps are you trying to average?
Sunlight, I try to get at least like 15 minutes of exposure, very first thing in the morning. I try to shoot for, 10, 20 minutes, kind of midday. You can download an app. I want to say it's called D-Minder. And so you can basically, you punch in your latitude and you punch in your skin type and a couple of other questions, and you can get an idea as to how much time you should be spending in sunlight during the middle of the day. And ideally, this would be with your glasses off, shirt off, try to get as much bare skin, into the sunlight.
So different skin types should have different amounts of sunlight.
Right.
Interesting.
So my wife she's very pale skinned.
Yeah.
She'll be in the sunlight for 10 minutes and she starts kind of getting red.
Right.
I can be in there, for an hour,
Wow.
so it really depends. And that's why, some people say, avoid sunlight, put on the sunscreen, this and this and this. Everything comes down to that balance. There's a lot of, the devil is always in the details.
Yeah. I'm seeing mixed things on the sunscreen stuff now.
Yeah.
It's scary. Anything you used as a child growing up that you thought was normal is now like out the you almost,
Yeah.
It's scary.
Absolutely.
Are you a fan, going back to the sleep real quick, are you a fan of the mouth taping trend that's going around?
I am a huge fan of the mouth taping trend. It has helped a lot of patients and clients. Even when I've made, videos on social media, you'll often see people will comment like, oh my God, my sleep just went through the roof. Like I feel so much, clear headed. There's some people that are against it. Some of the doctors are against it. It can help, some moderate forms of, or mild to moderate forms of sleep apnea. But if you have severe sleep apnea, you really have to, see a sleep specialist. But it can be a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, I use it every night. I use a brand called Hostage Tape, and it's really impacted my sleep, honestly.
It's definitely legit.
Yeah, because I could sleep less but feel better. Because I used to sleep with my mouth wide open.
Yeah, and that's what happens. We mouth breathe a lot all throughout the day. Our tongues get weak, because we're not keeping appropriate tongue posture. So our tongue actually has to be up in the top portion of our mouth, and if we don't, it actually even starts changing the posture of our face. I've even seen studies, showing that having your tongue at the roof of your mouth even increases your strength. So they've shown that even in weightlifters.
Wait, tongue on the top of your mouth increases your strength.
Yeah. So what happens is, is that if we don't have appropriate tongue posture as we sleep, and if we're mouth breathing throughout the day, at nighttime, that's what ends up happening is our mouth kind of opens up, our tongue starts kind of rolling back, and it starts kind of choking us off.
Wow, that's crazy. Because your tongue is pretty long, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. What are some common health and nutrition myths you see on social media that irritate you and you want to address?
Wow. I'm gonna say, really, what it comes down to is all of the baby talk.
Baby talk.
Baby talk. Yeah. It's like everything, we look at things, from like, okay, like, blueberries are good and bananas are bad. And, vegetables are good, but this is bad. Or, meat is good and meat is bad. Again, everything kind of comes down to this context.
Yeah. They oversimplify, right?
They really oversimplify. It's like they'll cherry pick studies. And there's always, the devil's in the details. I used to avoid bananas because I was like, oh my God, they're high glycemic. They're going to spike up my blood sugar. And in reality, it comes down to context. If you eat a green bananas are really good for feeding your gut bacteria. So all of a sudden you've taken, something that, is supposed to be the junk health food and you've turned it into a superfood.
I'm glad you said that because I always get hate for eating them kind of green because people are like, you're weird, but I like them more hard. Yeah. That sounded wrong, but like, I like them green for some reason.
Yeah.
When they have the brown dots, I don't like them as much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Save those for your smoothies.
Yeah. What about eggs? I've seen you say the yolk. Is that part bad for you?
The yolk is just it's really nutrient dense. I mean, if you think about it, it's so nutrient dense that it feeds newborn life. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Because there's people that say it's terrible for you.
No, I mean, there's a lot of, fear against cholesterol. There really shouldn't be a lot of fear against cholesterol. But yeah.
What's your stance on seed oils?
I am totally against the seed oils. There's some countries like Japan that eat a bunch of seed oils, but I don't think that they're eating the refined seed oils. And they eat a lot of fish in their diet, which helps kind of, balance things out.
Right. Interesting. I didn't know they were eating seed oils there because they have one of the longest lifespans in Japan.
They do.
What type of seed oils are they eating?
I believe they eat canola oil.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like the worst one, I thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it comes down to, in the United States, if the seed oil is very refined, that is what causes inflammation. So that's why I avoid that stuff across the board.
So when it's refined, they're just heating it up, right?
They're heating it up, and it causes it to break down, which is going to cause inflammation in your body. Right. So I mean, even health foods, you've really got to watch out. There's a lot of health foods, and it's such a pain in the because you have to look at all of your labels when you go to Whole Foods. But even at the even buying even at the salad bar at Whole Foods, I'm like, okay, that has canola oil, avoid that. I'm like, okay, that has, so even though they don't have, the stuff that everybody knows, avoid, let's say vegetable oil and stuff. Yeah. You always have to read those labels.
Yeah, it's a shame because I used to eat that hot bar at Whole Foods every week, but then I found out they use canola oil in like everything.
Exactly.
So I was like, are you serious? And even all the healthy snacks at Whole Foods and grocery stores, a lot of them have seed oils.
Yeah, and and that's why you have to sit there and pay attention to every label. And it's not like I'm always going to be perfect. A lot of times in our household, we'll buy some snacks, and and we think that you just do a glance at it, and then all of a sudden a month or two later, you're looking at it, and you're like, oh my God,
that's the worst feeling.
Seriously?
Yeah, you already ate half the bag.
Yeah, you're like, man, I love this stuff. All right, back to the drawing board. I'm going to find something different. Yeah. But you get what you put into it.
Yeah. Why do you think a lot of foods are banned in Europe, or not Europe, in Europe, but not in the US?
They have, they definitely have a little bit stricter standards. And it's not that they don't have any junk food. It's not that they don't have any inflammatory food, but there's a lot of foods that we use here. There's like, titanium dioxide is in a bunch of different candies, and they're trying to make that illegal in both California and New York. BHT and BHA, so there's a lot of different chemicals like that. If you take a look at, just even the ingredients in let's say McDonald's United UK and McDonald's here, totally different things.
Right.
They don't use red dye number 40. That's another big one. So red dye number 40, very inflammatory, can cause a lot of, ADHD with kids.
That's basically like a food coloring, right? To make it look red.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting that so much stuff is just banned, and it's clearly, they've done studies on the ingredients, and it's clearly bad for you, but it won't get banned here.
Yeah, and that's what they'll say is they'll say, well, we're not 100%, but we don't necessarily want to take the chance here. Yeah, everything is money driven.
Yeah, I saw you talk about dark chocolate. You're a huge fan of that, right?
I am a huge fan of dark chocolate, but there's been some interesting studies kind of coming out about heavy metals in dark chocolate. So it's like you have to, if you're going to go with chocolate, you want to go with dark chocolate, you want to go with the highest quality, possible. And then, B, you really want to watch out for like you just not going to town on it. And it all depends on, where you're at in terms of your health, where you're at in terms of your genetics. So genetically for me, I am a very poor detoxifier. So that means my body doesn't get rid of chemicals that well. So I really have to watch out for that stuff because it's going to cause a lot of long-standing health issues.
Yeah, it's really crazy, man, because there's always these new foods and then it comes out later that it's not as healthy as people thought. And it's like you're constantly changing it up,
Right. But, that's the best thing is try to go with, highest quality, least processed. If that's all everybody did was went, the highest quality, least processed, you're going to win.
Yeah. What have you seen work in terms of anti-aging for you and your clients? Have there been any foods or diets or supplements that have been proven to anti-age?
Foods, diet, supplements. Again, I kind of just concentrate on all of those foundational things. I think I typically promote skills over pills.
Okay.
So I started doing, functional medicine with patients. Functional medicine is you're trying to get to the root cause of, people's different health issues. So you typically, you spend, the clients will pay you $3,000 and that's upfront. And then you end up running something like $1,000 or $2,000, worth of labs. And then you sit there and you start, just shoving, supplements at them.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that with patients and they were getting some good results. But, what it really came down to was everybody needed to do all of those foundational things. It didn't make a difference if I gave them, a really good anti-inflammatory if they weren't decreasing their stress levels or if they weren't breathing right or if they, weren't, drinking enough water. You're going to hit the wall. So I kind of started dialing back from that stuff because I kind of felt that I was no different than kind of big pharma. I started saying to people, I said, what I want you to do is let's make this easier. Let's focus on skills over pills. Let's focus on, your most minimal effort, maximum benefit, bang for your buck things, and just slowly kind of, build upon that. So we focus on, you're going to get more bang for your buck focusing on your gut bacteria and your breathing than you will on any supplement.
Yeah, I love that approach because people I used to be on like 50 pills a day and I'm like, this is too much. It's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we had patients coming in and they were, prescribed, from different people and then stuff that they had read, online, like 30, 40, different pills. And that might be fine, but a lot of, like 99% of the time they were dropping the ball on all of those fundamental things.
Yeah, it just got to the point where like, I don't know if my liver was hurting or something, but I was just eating so many different pills and it's not good when you're eating that many.
Yeah, and you don't really know what types of interactions, those have.
Yeah. So is it true that clothing can potentially cause cancer?
Clothing can potentially cause cancer.
How?
So spandex is loaded in BPA, and there was a recent lawsuit, towards, and this is going to make a lot of people cry, but like towards Lululemon, a lot of, athletic performance clothing providers, because they were found to have something like 22 times the limit of BPA. Now, your skin absorbs stuff. And so, you don't always have to eat something to get that, absorption.
Right.
So, and that's what happens is people wear, like sports bras, underwear, all of these shirts. And so it sits there and absorbs into their skin. I think they did some study on just even athletic socks and found that they had, it was like 30 times the level of BPA. Even just handling, your receipts at a store. I
stopped doing that.
Yeah, you actually absorb, BPA, and BPA is a major endocrine disruptor. So, basically what it is it throws off all of your hormones. It'll throw off all of your hormones. It'll cause cancer. It'll cause, inflammation. And again, it's not, like sometimes people start getting, freaked out about this stuff. And it's, what I typically tell people is just, do what you can. You're not going to be able to solve all of these things, all at once. It's just try to make those little choices when and where you can.
Right. It's scary, man. The receipt stuff scared me. And I feel bad for cashiers because they're touching thousands a day.
Yeah.
And they don't even know it's like not that good for you.
Oh yeah. It's scary.
In terms of the clothing, so is there clothing that doesn't have those materials?
Yeah, I mean, if you can go with cotton, if you can go with merino wool, that those types of things, are better.
Yeah, I saw my friend Brian Gold. Shout out to Brian. He bought like EMF boxers.
Yeah,
And he went to the airport and it just showed up black on the scanner.
Yep.
So they had to pat him down.
Yep, yep, I'm with you.
Because apparently those machines that scan your whole body are really bad for you.
Yep. And and it's always lame, but I always opt for the pat down. I'm always, having my phone on airplane mode whenever it's on my person.
So that's true then. The phone actually emits radiation that's harmful.
The phone does emit radiation that is harmful.
Wow.
It's a very very, very controversial subject.
Yeah.
You gotta imagine that, any scientist, that even begins to start kind of like, diving into that is going to, get his funding pulled.
Wow, because they just have so much money behind them. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
So you mentioned breathing a few times now. What is the proper way to breathe?
I typically have people kind of focus on longer exhales than inhales.
Longer exhales.
Longer exhales than inhales. Trying to breathe through your nose. So trying to avoid all of that mouth breathing. Trying to keep your jaw relaxed. Trying to breathe with your belly. So just trying to do that diaphragmatic breathing. You watch people. People will come in and I'm talking to them and I watch and they're just, you can see them kind of like breathing with their shoulders.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And so, we breathe 22 to 25,000 times a day. And, and that'll cause all sorts of headaches, all sorts of, neck issues. So you just have to be, a little bit more mindful, a little bit more, conscious.
Yeah, I do the Wim Hof method every day. Have you done that?
I did. I
love
just
it.
did it this morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
How many minutes can you hold your breath for?
About 4. About 4.
I just hit a new record, 2 minutes, 5 seconds, but 4 minutes is impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did it?
It took a couple of years.
Okay. I've been doing it for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's impressive. I know some people up to like 5-6 minutes. It's like crazy.
And you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it in the water. You don't want to do it in anything like that. You want to do it in a nice, safe, kind of relaxed place.
Yeah, I agree. I tried it in the water, but I got in my own head for sure.
Yeah.
What is this menthol hack for weight loss that you've been promoting?
The menthol hack for weight loss. Cold adaptation has been pretty big, and I've been studying cold adaptation probably for about 12 years. My clinic was one of the very first clinics with whole body cryotherapy. So it's basically a big giant chamber that you would stand in naked, and we would drop the temperature down to about minus 270 degrees. And basically what it does is it out the body and you start producing more glutathione and more stress resilience. So like if your body can chill out, if your body can handle all of the cold, you sitting in traffic later on during the day isn't too bad. But one of the things that cold does is it increases something called, it's a special fat. It's a fat with superpowers. It's called brown adipose tissue. And so brown adipose tissue basically it burns more calories. And so what you can do is you can, and there's a lot of studies on this, you can actually use menthol on brown adipose, on areas of your body that would have high amounts of brown adipose tissue. So think about around your collarbones, think about around your shoulder blades. Sometimes I'll put it on stubborn fat areas. And so you can actually increase that brown adipose tissue and basically turn yourself into a fat burning machine. But again, it all comes down to context. If you're doing this stuff, but then you're eating the wrong foods and you're sleeping wrong. And again, everything has to have a balance, so if you start doing too much of this stuff, you actually change your gut bacteria. So now they're like, well, we're living in Antarctica, so we're going to need to burn more energy. We're going to need to stoke the fire. So it's going to start being able to pull more calories out of your food.
Interesting. So how cold do you need to get for that to kick in? Because I take cold showers. Is that cold enough?
Anything colder than your body temperature, is all it takes. But the colder it is, so the minus 270, minus 270 degrees, you were in there for about, 2 minutes to 3 minutes. If you were doing something maybe 10 degrees less than your body temperature, you'd have to be there for a lot longer period of time.
Right. Yeah, I'm in there a few minutes, but that's probably not long enough to reach the full effect. So is it true that laughing lowers blood sugar and can change your genes?
Laughing does lower your blood sugar. It changes your genes. There was some interesting studies about, and they came out of Japan. They took all of these diabetics, and they took half the diabetics, and half the diabetics, they showed them this terrible, boring lecture. And so what happens is that their blood sugar absolutely went through the roof.
Wow.
They showed the other group, they showed them a hilarious comedy show. Not only did their blood sugar drop down into the normal range, but 23 genes were changed in terms of genetic expression.
It's actually crazy because I felt like we were taught growing up that you couldn't really change your genes, but now there's all these studies that they can be changed.
So we've got our genes, and then we have something called epigenetics. And epigenetics is basically our environment changes our genetic expression.
Right.
If you're, again, if you're under stress, it'll change your genetic expression.
Wow. Jeremiah, I've learned a lot, man. This has been a great episode. I can't wait to implement some of the stuff. Is there anything you want to close off with?
Not really. Just again, focus on the basics. You can't just focus on diet and exercise. You really have to go after your stress levels. You have to go after your light. You have to go after your breathing. All of the above.
Man, I love that because that's not taught anywhere. People just focus on diet and exercise, but this is what you really need. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Where can people find you?
You can find me at youngeryouBlueprint.com, and we got some other websites where we'll be launching some free courses for everybody. And I'm also on social media at YoungerYouDoc, so I'd love to see you there.
Love it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.